Hey there, thank you so much for watching my YouTube channel. Totally stoked that you're here. And of course, I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel because honestly, this is fantastic. Love that it's short. Each episode is short, but packed with stuff that's really thought-provoking and transformational. So we're finishing our series on Sketchy People. And I like this series because it's like real humans interacting with Jesus. And the humanity that the Bible describes, I love that the Bible doesn't pull any punches. The Bible puts all the cards on the table and says, this is who these people are. So we looked at Zacchaeus, the chief tax collector. We looked at the woman at the well, Samaritan woman. She was an amazing, sketchy person. We looked at Judas last week, and he's absolutely sketchy. A follower, a close follower, disciple of Jesus, 24/7 for almost 3 years. Today we're going to look at Nicodemus. And Nicodemus is an interesting, sketchy person. I say he's sketchy because the first time we meet him is in John chapter 3. And this is an interesting dialogue because Nicodemus is one of the religious Jewish leaders in Jerusalem during Jesus' time. And Nicodemus comes to Jesus, and he comes to Jesus at nighttime, so nobody else is around, and it's just the two of them having a conversation. And I think this is sketchy because Nicodemus has a lot to lose. He's a religious Jewish leader at this time, and the other Jewish leaders around him in this community are not like super Jesus proponents. In fact, they're anything but Jesus proponents. They're anti-Jesus. So Nicodemus, when he comes to talk with Jesus, he doesn't do it in the daylight in front of all of his buddies and religious leaders. He does it at nighttime by himself, kind of on the sly. So he's a little bit sketchy. And he's sketchy because he's got a lot to lose. If he gets associated with Jesus, that's guilty by association. He could be ostracized from his community, from all those religious leaders, all the influence and bad news. But I like that he takes the risk, even though it's at nighttime, and he kind of maybe sneaks in a little bit to have a conversation dialogue with Jesus. And I appreciate this because when you watch the conversation, the back and forth that happens between Nicodemus and Jesus, Nicodemus is he's not accusatory, he's quizzical, curious. Well, the Old Testament, the prophets, they say these things. And Jesus says, yes, but, and they start to have this dialogue going back and forth and what's happening here. And I love that Jesus talks to, I find this really interesting. He talks to Nicodemus about being born again. This is where we get the terminology, are you born again? It's basically one verse, this main verse in John chapter 3. And it's an interesting dialogue. I find it interesting because immediately Nicodemus says, born again, how can you do that? You go back into your mom's womb and then you're like, come out again? And I find it really interesting that you have two men who will never have the potential of actually being pregnant or giving birth, talking about being pregnant and giving birth. They don't have they just know it from a spectator, not as an actual person. And I like that Jesus uses this terminology, born again, because it provokes Nicodemus. Even in this nighttime conversation, even when Nicodemus has separated and kind of come on his own quietly, maybe even secretly to Jesus, and he has this really thought-provoking conversation dialogue. But you watch and see Nicodemus' behavior because he doesn't ostracize Jesus. There's still some participation around the edges with Nicodemus, but when Jesus dies, Nicodemus is part of the group that takes care of Jesus' body. And Nicodemus became a follower of Jesus. But I like how that started at a nighttime conversation, kind of on the sly when nobody else was around. And I like that Nicodemus had all this religious upbringing, influences. He was one of these top leaders. But his conversation with Jesus, secret, on the sly, offline conversation, was enough for Nicodemus to have a change in his heart and become a follower of Jesus even after Jesus died and rose from the dead. And you might be watching, you might be saying, well, I've been religious, I've been raised in the church all my life. But I think sometimes just because we have that upbringing doesn't mean we know Jesus on an intimate, personal level. And having those offline conversations with Jesus, those are the places where we can have the most transformation, the most awareness, most intimate connection with Jesus, and letting Jesus be who Jesus is. Not all the religious stuff in our upbringing, but genuine Jesus. And I love that when we talk with Jesus, he is the light of the world. No matter what the darkness is that we might be in, any kind of shady, sketchy stuff, Jesus is the light of the world. And I'd invite you to have your own honest, cards on the table conversations with Jesus. Let Jesus speak into your life and ask questions. I find that with myself. I take walks and talk to Jesus. I don't understand this, or I'm frustrated with this. This doesn't make any sense to me. And I do that because I see throughout the Bible, these conversations are modeled with people, including Nicodemus. He's like, I don't understand how I can be born again. And those questions don't ruffle Jesus. You don't see him like, oh my gosh, you're such an idiot. Jesus never does that. He always welcomes the dialogue, welcomes the questions, welcomes the interaction, participation, because ultimately, Jesus is about relationship with you. So I really want to thank you for watching. Of course, you want to get the notification bell thing right there. And thank you for subscribing and giving comments, liking and all that. Thank you so much. Of course, we're going to finish with a joke because we all think these jokes are amazing, kind of, but not really. But here's your joke. So some people eat light bulbs because they say it's a nice, light snack. I'm telling you, the next series is going to have really amazing jokes. Maybe, probably not. Thanks again for watching.